This video is sponsored by SKETCHFAB. Stick around to see how you can get high quality 3D models for free. Hey, what's up guys and welcome back to askNK. Today we are taking a look at Embergen. So we've already talked about Embergen before, you know, the beautiful tool from the folks at Yang Effects that makes real-time volumetric fluid simulation for both games and films. But today we are looking at something pretty nice. So we've already talked about some beautiful things that the Embergen 0.56 offers. You know, we did a whole video about that. But today we're looking at the pre-release. And for those who are already licensed users, you can go over to the Discord channel and request this and start playing with it. So how does this new beta version work? If you pop up the previous version, this is exactly what we had. And the previous version looks extremely nice. Real-time simulation, you know, you just get this thing playing back however you want. And it doesn't matter. I mean, you just move things back and forth. Simulation on the fly. You can export to VDB, you can export to sequences, everything you're looking for right here. But then what does the new one look like? This is what the new beta version looks like. This is the beta version 0.75, the pre-release version 2, and this looks beautiful. The UI looks extremely different. There is a welcome screen right now that tells you what your previous projects were, what the presets you have are. You can go for tutorials, join the Discord, join the forums, open previous projects that you have stored on your hard drive, and start a new one. So let's see what the interface looks like inside. So I'm just going to go ahead and say don't save, and voila. This is what it looks like right in, and this is what you used to work with. The differences are huge. So once you pop this one open, you would notice that there is a total revamp of the user interface. The user interface from the node graph to where you get to find your properties, to where you get to also do your work. This is crazy. The timeline is also something that brings smile to me. I've also found out, and I'm also going to go ahead and show you guys, that you can now bring in animated stuff. Previously, what you had was you can export things and bring them in and cache them and make them VDBs, and then you can simulate with that. But right now, it's different. You can bring in your FBX, your VDB stuff, you can bring in your OBJ, you can bring in your Alembic files, you can run your full simulation directly here. Even more so, you can also choose to mask things. If you've been working with the previous one before, you wouldn't have issues working with this one at all. It is as easy as that. You would only notice that there's a huge visual feedback for so many things. Let's start off with the node graph. Now, if you go over to the node graph, you would notice that all the nodes you have here, they all have icons identifying what nodes they are, unlike what you had before. Okay, so this looks extremely cool. So at any point in time you want to bring in something, let's say you want to bring in a new shape. If you right click, you see all of these bad boys. You can go over to shape, say you want a primitive shape, and you have that. Now the shape which you're working with is actually identified with the icon. So at this point we can choose to swap things. I'm just going to go ahead and swap this out. Let's click and drag that out, and I can swap this right in. If we bounce this back and press the playback button, you can see that miracle baby. And something else which you can also do is you can now choose to mute, or should I use the word turn off, some nodes and turn them back on. So depending on what you want to get, you can mute these things, turn them off, turn them back on. And while we're talking about the shapes, you can also do some Boolean actions, okay? So this one is something that brings joy to my soul. The fact that you can go over to shape right now, go over to shape blend, and you can blend multiple shapes. Like you can blend the shapes together, you know, you can drag that out and you can blend it in. And if I have the blend selected, let's bounce this. You can see we have a Boolean happening, and all of this, you know, nodes that you're working with, once you select them, you can go over to the properties section and you can do some magic. And I know some questions will be like, can you animate this? And yes, of course you can. So to everything which you have here, as far as it's called a node, you can technically animate them. So let's test out something. If I go over to where we have the subtraction and I choose to animate this, all I need to do is click on the type button. And you also notice that we have this nice tooltip that tells us what certain things do, and that would give us a good idea of what to select or what to expect at any given time. So if I select this object right now and it gives me this diamond shape, it means we're doing a keyframe. So I can go in and say, yep, subtraction should be the first one, and you can see that there. Let's go over to where we have just like within the first 1 second. I would also select that, and let's get an intersection. And you can see that. And this would influence how your simulation would be. Now, in most cases, you probably wouldn't get this anywhere else. So let's get up to it and press the playback button and see this real-time simulation animate real quick, and you can see that. Now, one thing which I also expect to get, probably this should come later, is a transform node. There is no transform node currently, and I really wish that we can have that, because if you go all the way to your animation, all these parts, you don't get to see a transform node at all. And while we talk about things that you get to see, if you also look down here, you notice that we have a section called favorites. There is no favorites that has been added to this right now, so you can't really favorite a particular node, and that would also come in very handy. But despite this, almost everything you have here works as it is. So if, for example, I would like to also bring in an animated object, of course I can. So just simply drag out, select the word animation, and find the animated object. So I've already gone through to download this running character from Gizmo, and if I load this right in, bounces all the way back, you can see we have this beautiful running character. Now, the folks at askNK Effects have actually made this even way cooler, that you can choose to mask your running character however you want. And this masking is not only reliant on working with vertex, red colors, all of that stuff. You can mask this by even selecting certain parts of the model, and you can do some crazy things. So at this point, now we have this model. If we like this model to simulate flames while it runs, it's as simple as bringing in the model, pressing your playback button, and you have that happening. And at any point in time you would like to play with the emission, you can also go over to the emission section, go over to emission within the node details, and we can add some more smoke. If we like to get some more smoke, we can bring that in. Let's just make sure that we're looking at this character properly. We can also throw in some fuel. Let's increase the fuel. You can see that. So you can do whatever you want, and all of these things are in real time. The same thing happens with your simulation. You can go over to the simulation section, and you can play with how you like your simulation to be. And right now we're looking at combustion. We can use colored smokes if this is what we want. We can switch this back, and everything is just real time, really quick, really easy, and you can just simply hit the ground running. So all of the parameters you have here are all animatable, and you can do anything you want. So if you'd also, let's pause this, if you also like to use things like particles, you want to use particles to actually drive things, yes, of course, you can also do that. Let's take this out and right click, go over to where we have shape, drag in some particles, and launch them right in there. All right, so I'm just going to launch these ones in. Let's make sure that we turn this node off, because we don't want to see this. And the same thing, you can turn off all of these nodes at any point in time. And with this here, if we go in and press the playback button, let's also turn this off so that we don't see it within the timeline. If you press the playback button, you can see you have particles launching, and all of the particles that you have, you can go to the particle control and you can control this how you want them to be. Let's say you want a burst to be about this much, or you want to be this small. You want to have like a continuous burst, multi-burst, you can just simply have all of that, and they can do your bidding. It's just totally up to you and how you want these things to be, and you can just simply get them happening for you. And once you press your playback button, the simulation drives it. And this is just extremely cool. I love the fact that folks at askNK Effects have actually taken time to make sure that the UI and also some of these updates right here make a lot of sense, and they've implemented them for the beta for anyone who is already a licensed user to try it. So let's go ahead and check out some of the examples. And one of them is the waterfall. So with the waterfall like this, you can see this bad boy happening. Now, what is driving this waterfall is the force fields, and there's a couple of force fields that you can work with. So if you go over to the forces, there's a couple of forces that you can work with right now, and you can actually use them. You can even throw in a collider as well, just in case you like to collide certain parts together. And if you would like to work with some modulators, you can also use those as well. So in this case, if I would like to get a collider, I can click on collider just to make sure I have this collider happening. And I can drag the collider and connect this right here. You may want to have a shape collide with something. Let's get a primitive. And in this case, I might just simply get a box. I think a box is good. And we can also scale that box. Let's bounce this bad boy back. Let's stop it and bounce it back. And I would use a gizmo to raise this one all the way up. Of course, we can see that because it's not connected. So I'm just going to connect that. And then you can use your scale tool and you can scale this however you want. So I can scale this all the way out, all the way like so. And then if we press the playback button, you can see that it sort of collides with it and it doesn't pass through. So you can choose to animate this if this is what you want. So let's get one quick animation happening. So with this here, if we go over to where we have our position, just going to go ahead and, put a keyframe there. And let's see, I'm just going to make that start from up, and once it gets to a frame like this, so we'd like this to go all the way down. So let's make it go down like this. Okay, so we have that. So once we bounce this back and press the playback button, you would see that we have this, going all the way down. And that is essentially how you do this stuff. And once you're ready, to get this out, you can either export this out. So if you go over to the capture section, you can choose to export this however you want. But then for those who like to also export this as VDBs, if you simply right click now, you can go over to export, go over to where you have like your VDB. You can connect this over to where you have your simulation. And in this case, once you have this ready, put the part where you want to export this to, put a number of frames, go over to the controls, put whatever parameter you like to export. Then you can hit the export now and simply export that and bring that into the DCC app of choice and start doing some amazing things. It's also worth knowing that you can actually go through and explore some of the presets that exist so that you can see what you can get out of this, play with the elements that exist with these things, like for example the light, the parameters, tweak these things to your liking, and learn how this real-time simulation tool actually works. It's also worth knowing that the folks at Yanga FX have actually dropped down their prices, so just in case you want to get this, you want to try it, you can also go over to see pricing right now and see how much they've dropped this thing down. And for those that are looking for free models that they can use to test out some things, probably you're wondering, how can I get some quick animatable models or good models that I can simulate on? You can simply go over to SKETCHFAB where you can get these models and start working with them. One of the cool things with SKETCHFAB is for any of the models that you like to work with, you can actually preview them before you even proceed to download them and get them for free. And it just makes a lot of sense because in most cases, most artists would like to preview what they would like to download before they download it and actually work with it. And if you're an artist that creates tons of content, so probably you create 3D models and you're looking for a place you can sell it, SKETCHFAB is a home for you, so you can go through and check it out. Huge shout out to the folks at SKETCHFAB and also to the folks at Yanga FX for making this possible. And of course, if you like this video or you learned something from this, you can go ahead and give a like and don't forget to share with a friend. And if you're new here, it's going to be amazing for you to hit the subscribe button and also turn on notifications so that you don't miss the next video or the next update. And I'd like to see you guys again with a tutorial update, Free Friday, Tutorial Tuesday, tips and tricks, things like this. Peace.